Welcome to Winning-stl, where we have conversations about how St. Louis can best compete and win in the battle for talent, jobs, growth, and equity. Winning-stl is sponsored by the Hartford Small Business Insurance, and we're at Fox & Hounds, an iconic tavern within the Cheshire, a luxury boutique hotel with a British-inspired aesthetic located in central Clayton. I'm Ian Caso, publisher of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and today I'm speaking with Kofi Colon, President and CEO for the Muny. Kofi, thank you so much. Pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kofi, I moved here a little over 20 years ago, and I remember learning about the Muny, going to the Muny, and thinking, wow, this is pretty unique.
Sure.
And I think over time I've realized, I think it's maybe more unique than I realized. It's age, its size.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's one of one, and that's the truth.
One of one.
It's one of one. I think a long time ago we had a tagline that read "Alone in its greatness." I mean, 105 years, you say a lot of things, but yeah, I mean, at 11,000 seats, it's the largest musical theater in the country. I think it's the largest outdoor musical theater in the world. No one's verified that one, so we like to roll with that. But it's 11,000 seats. We're 105 years old. We're here in the heart of the community. We're right here in the center of St. Louis. There's not a neighborhood better than Forest Park to reside in, but yeah, it's a unique experience. And if, as a person that did not grow up being a performer, just experiencing what that is, I think is one of the things that makes it special. It's just there's not another place you can go like it.
You know, Kofi, this series is really about how does St. Louis best position itself to compete, right? Because we are in competition with all kinds of cities for population, for talent, for companies, for all those things. And a number of guests we've had on this series so far have referenced the arts, specifically the Muny. So tell me in your words, why do you think the arts and the Muny specifically is important to St. Louis?
I think arts, they break down barriers. Right, you know, anything that's entertaining, anything that you have to absorb, and art being one of the highest or most absorbed forms of that, it just takes down barriers, right? It doesn't matter. If I use the Muny as the example, it doesn't matter if you are in the free seats or if you paid a significant amount of money to sit in the first row, whether it's your first time or you're one of these sixth-generation families, whether you were chauffeured to the Muny or you took the train or you walked over. Every single person, when that stage lights up and the music starts and the moment happens on stage, we're the same. If you're sitting in that house, everyone is the same seeing that moment. If it's funny, we laugh together. If it's sad, we cry together, and all the emotions in between. So we are at a moment, I think, as a society, not just in St. Louis, I would argue nationally or even globally, we're hyper aware of the things that make us different. There's a very delicate balance between celebrating our uniqueness and making those things that divide us. And so I think that when you have something like art, specifically the Muny, which is built on with a civic ideal, those are the moments that we need more of. You know, and I mean it when I say you want to somehow bottle up that concept and say that it's okay for a couple of hours for us to feel, believe, think the same way, independent of our creed, our politics, our identity, all those things. Because at our core, we have emotions, and when you experience an emotion the same as the person next to you, you can't break that bond. And we talk about improving or evolving. I prefer evolving than improving a community or a city. We have to. It doesn't happen in a silo. We have to do it together. So we have to find reasons to feel united, and I think that's why. St. Louis is successful in that way, because we have this remarkable arts community. I mean, we're a giant theater. There are theaters, community, all the scales. You know, we have relationships with theaters and community theaters, schools, high schools, you name it. There is not a neighborhood or a weekend that you can be in this town and not have the opportunity to experience art. And I think that is that's some of the connective tissue of our community.
Yeah, I think. It seems to me, and I'm not in the inner circle of the arts, but it seems to me that the artistic community in St. Louis is very supportive of each other, and there are those connections. Sounds like that's true?
It's very true. I mean, I have colleagues that are the heads of other institutions who I refer to them as friends before I refer to them as colleagues, and because we're all in the same boat. I think we're all trying to do the same thing. We represent sometimes different mediums or sometimes different scales, but we all have an audience that we are trying to A, build loyalty with, and B, build community with. And so we are here to support each other. I think the pandemic and figuring out our ways through that was a time that really, really helped us to connect. I think we're at a moment we just start to really look at the silver linings from that time that we all went through, and building those relationships and connections. There's something about surviving together that's also very uniting. So I think that there's a great level of support, and there's generally a new wave. I don't know if we're all new still, if we think of ourselves as new or not, but we are maybe decades where we work, but just years, weeks, months into our jobs. And so we are looking at this as a thing of how can this be a network rather than something that feels competitive. And, we have roundtables, we meet together, we have professional happy hours, we have therapeutic happy hours, you name it. But it's definitely a sense of community. I think if we illustrate that, then that also moves to our respective institutions. So our staffs, our communities, our audiences can also see that is the way forward. That's the path to success.
I've heard you talk about in the past that you want the Muny to be, and the audiences that go to the Muny, representative of the community at large.
Yeah.
And so tell me about what that means to you, what maybe you've tried to do to enhance that or to realize that vision.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's made us successful and given us longevity is that it is important for people to see reflections of themselves. This sounds negative, but it's not. We're a somewhat narcissistic society. Like, we feel more comfortable when we can see or feel like we also belong in that space. And the easiest way to achieve that is to see something that reminds you of yourself. So how do we achieve that? It's making sure that we have a great relationship with the community, to know who's there, but to know who's not there and how they're represented and they're not represented. And when I say that, it's not to say that every cast will represent every possible demographic, but it's to say that a young child of color can see me and say, like, you can be a president and CEO of an institution, or they can see whoever plays Belle in Beauty and the Beast versus Carole King versus Roxy Hart versus whomever. We have to make sure that doesn't feel monolithic in a way. There's just a way for everybody to see a moment of themselves, and the best way that you do that is to make sure the community feels comfortable to be in your space and let you know what they want to see and how they want the theater. At the end of the day, this is St. Louis's theater. It's the Municipal Theater Association of St. Louis. This is this community's theater, and so we have to make sure that they all feel like it's a home for them.
Kofi, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. It's been fascinating to get your perspective on things. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
It was a great conversation. Thank you.